Cool, 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 cool.
I don't know. That's completely reflexive. I don't know why I GLHF'd myself. But, ladies and gentlemen, on today's episode of Stormgate Map Tours, we've got Guillotine on the line. Guillotine, please say hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Buenos dias, as they say in New Orleans, I believe.
Nope,
And oh, no? I was
not
close.
at all.
And if I wasn't, I'm going to pretend that I was. So,
That's all good.
it's funny that I say something in French right there, real quick, because your map's name is Bayou Caouenne. If I'm
Caouenne, good job. Yeah, yeah.
okay, not Bayou Caouenne or however I said it, but I assume like just from the fact that you know what the pronunciation is makes me think that you're familiar with those parts of the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm born and raised down the Bayou in Louisiana. Currently live in New Orleans.
Nice.
Um, Caouenne is a Louisiana French word specifically, so those familiar with like Francophone French might not know the word. The folklore is that it's derivative of a Native American word. I'm not so sure in the validity of that because it's kind of similar to other words in other languages that are somewhat regional, but it's the word that we use to describe the alligator snapping turtle.
Oh, cool. That's super cool.
Cool, thank you, thank you. Which is one of my favorite animals, and one of the earlier, I guess, layouts of the map was kind of it kind of resembled like the shape of a Caouenne skull, and then since it's at least to legend derives from a Native American word. Native Americans used to refer to North America as Turtle Island, so I figured it's maybe like a little bit of a respectful nod there as well. And the name just kind of stuck. It was important to me to use a Louisiana French word,
Sure.
and yeah, that's where we landed.
Right on, right on. So I'm assuming that means then that that like the looks of the map are impacted by kind of that cultural reference, kind of like southeastern Bayou Cajun folklore-ish. I like this little rust
Ugh.
little houseboat. Is that what that is?
It's like there is the best we got right now to look like little shotgun houses on some stilts. Maybe when I can upload my own meshes, I'll use some some more like traditional like French like New Orleans like shotgun style homes and more brighter colors. But yeah, the closest thing we got. Yeah, I definitely come from a region where like you do have houses high up on stilts right like that. For flooding.
Sure.
In the marshlands back in way back in the day, like you had it's very multicultural region, people from all over the world, and you had free people of color and other migrants that would build homes like this simply because like the law enforcement couldn't come out and track you down if you were like an escaped slave or something. And so that's kind of where like a lot of the ideas behind these types of homes come from. And then also, yeah, you got to protect yourself from floodwaters and whatnot. So I wanted it to look lived in for sure. The looks are definitely inspired, by the Bayou a little bit. It's a region like, I feel like Louisiana isn't represented too much in media, and when it is, it's often kind of misrepresented a little bit.
Sure.
And I think kind of one of the cool things about Stormgate is that the setting is on Earth, and so every player of Stormgate, to my knowledge, is from Earth, and we all have a story and a perspective to tell. And so when I was coming up with like the idea for this map, I just was imagining, where would my people and my home be during the events of Stormgate? What does it look like? How does it feel?
That's cool.
Yeah,
I don't think I've heard
that's
that
kind of
before.
what
Where
I
someone like brings their home turf. That, oh man, what would my home turf look like post Infernal Invasion? That's
right.
It's a very cool like aesthetic reason to go after it, and you've certainly nailed it. Like there's like I don't want to say like maybe river life. I think people aren't as familiar. I think a lot of people know about it's like, oh well, beaches are white and sandy and mountains are mountainous and forests are these green whatever, but like South Riverlands I think don't get enough attention in games or honestly in most media. But here we go. Now that it's daylight again. Yeah, this has like a kind of a cool little like swampy thing going for it. Yeah, I don't know. I like it. I like it quite a bit. I've been having a lot of trouble like personally playing on this. Oh, whoa! Is this tall grass? You can hide units in here.
You can, yes, yes. They're also so this is kind of the most recent update. We added more tall grass because it's available in the editor now and multiple shades. And there's more around the storm gates. If you kind of take a look around the storm gates, so especially the corner ones, yeah, we've got more of this tall, like kind of gray grass here. And I guess some of the storytelling I was trying to do with these storm gates is like. So also kind of around the Bayou regions, we produce a lot of sugarcane, and what's part of like the sugarcane, like right after harvest, is to prepare the soil for next year. Is they burn it all down, and so there's a time of year where like you just smell sugarcane burning constantly. And so thinking of like infernals and like they're kind of supposed to be like the representative of like the quote bad guys, but I kind of like gray characters better. And so I was thinking, like, what if all of this, like, shroud and fire and brimstone was like they were burning down to regrow something new, right? And so we've got the Stormgate kind of like spreading this corruption, and we see the green grass slowly turning white and dying. But closer to the Stormgate, we've got this red grass that's growing, and maybe the Infernals are like, maybe they're running for something, and they're just trying to preserve their way of life and their culture. And I feel like that's something that being a proud Cajun and someone who practices Louisiana Creole culture, like that's something I can relate to, and Infernals are my race of choice. And so I kind of wanted to connect those dots a little bit and put a little bit of my personality into it.
Sure. Yeah, very cool. And I know we've seen in the past kind of moving towards like the tactical side of things, having Stormgates being like, hey, if you attack in here, it's like having the visibility, I guess, obstructed has been kind of a theme that I've noticed, is that people don't want, like, they want to make Stormgates even riskier to go after, which makes sense. Like, you don't want it to be such a free thing. I know some people like to have, like, bigger open battles, which is also cool.
Sure. And that's what the middle of this map is for.
Yeah, that's what, I was going to say, that's what this, like, huge swath of, like, I don't want to say bloody grounds, but it's certainly, like, yeah, it looks like it's right for a really big battle to take place there. What about the we're also seeing like a bunch of these narrower passages. I don't know that I'd call this like necessarily a narrow corridor, because you can still you can still get quite a few yeah, I'll let them keep working on that. You can still get quite a few units through here and have like pretty good fights. You can do some flanks around up top, up bottom. So it's not entirely closed off and have like Titan's Causeway levels of narrow corridors, but it's still something that it's like you don't want to just like move your army through there. You want to kind of like set up your army as you go through it. What made you want to use like lanes, for lack of a better term, to get like towards the center, or I mean even over here, like this is a pretty tight little spot. What why so like hallway-y?
Yeah, I think that's fair. So I guess my philosophy here, as a level designer, is like, what is something I enjoy about gameplay, and how do we highlight that? And then what is something that like maybe we don't necessarily enjoy about gameplay, and how can we like gate that or whatever. And so you kind of hinted on it. Like I want there to be a reward for splitting up or attacking from multiple angles, and there to be kind of, I guess, a penalty inherently of getting a 300 supply and just trying to click across the map, right? And so I felt like using these several different pathways to get to the enemy would naturally break up armies. Even if you do click across the map, you might have a few go a different way, especially if you break down some of the destructibles, to where even like two players that aren't like the most skilled, it might manufacture 3 small battles rather than 1 large one. And I find that to be more interesting and entertaining.
Sure. Yeah, I do like that. It's it certainly makes it more like you have to pay attention a lot more to what your army is doing. It's not like, all right, well, I'll move my army, everyone's kind of in position, and then I can go back home and macro a little bit while the fight's happening. It's like, it almost forces a person to pay like really close attention. But like I also see that I could also see people getting very like task saturated where it's like, okay, I'm managing my army so much that like I'm forgetting to do things at home, and like it almost turns it into like a different kind of a game of Stormgate. Which is cool.
Yeah,
It's like it requires a different set of skills to even just play on this kind of a tunneled map, as it were. Talk to me about the mana fountains. These are pretty new as of the PTR, right?
yeah, they're calling them at the moment Void Heart. And so instead of just health, it's health and energy. I feel like people are pretty split about them. I added them because they were new, and like, I think that we should maybe just pick one and stick with it. And so just to try them out, if it turns out that they're bad, we'll swap them back to health. I liked the positioning of these because they're if there are a lot of action, if there is a lot of action, like in the middle of the map, you have a place to kind of retreat and heal to. But it can also be used offensively, but not necessarily for like your main base. Like it could be used offensively if someone's like sieging your fourth or fifth or sixth base. It's also quite close to one of the storm gates, and so I felt like it made sense of a nice like location to retreat to.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm always very nervous when I'm on the ladder and I see these things where it's like, okay, I know my arm, like my spellcasters need energy now. Like all my very bruised up army needs health right now, but keeping everything like off the beaten path feels so risky. But I like that this is so tempting, even though it's off the beaten path. It's like, okay, you can get health and energy at the same time, but like you're not going to see your opponent showing up to your front door.
Right. Unless they tear down the destructible path.
Yeah, okay, so, and I did want to talk about this as well. I think this is the first time I've seen a destructible building in a 1v1 map.
Okay.
Is there a reason that you prefer destructible buildings over, like trees or rock pillars, or is it just a change it for flavor kind of a deal?
Yeah, well, so we wanted something that was more than because currently the trees in the game, like the ones that double as like scanner spots and destructible terrain, they're currently just one hit from a worker. And so we wanted something with like more HP that would take a little bit longer to break down. And the decision was made, so I think you'll see these buildings in a few more maps because right now there's no standard for what this structure will be. So like, in other RTS, you might have like a big clump of rocks or, a big clump of trash or something. Well, Stormgate doesn't have that in the editor. This is kind of a kit-bashed asset. I believe Matterino put this together, and I think everyone is going to use this same asset for this type of destructible until we get some official Stormgate ones.
Nice.
So it'll eventually change, but right now it looks like an infected command post, which is, I guess, kind of thematic for the map.
Yeah. I and I can't believe that I was like focused on this like, where was it? A random little still house over here when you have a ton of them. Like the whole map is just very, I don't know, it just feels cool. It feels very like, all right, I'll go visit New Orleans now because I played this map on Stormgate. Like,
hey, you come down, I will cook, my friend. I got you.
Hey, I won't say no. I think I actually know my favorite food of all time is a muffalata.
Muffalata, yeah.
Muffalata. I could eat those until I die, and
Cool, yeah.
it wouldn't take long. They are those are big sandwiches. Anyway, cool. So you liked you obviously like big fights up here. You're giving us enough room to actually like fight over things like this. This destructible terrain is always fun. I thought it was it kind of reminds me of, in Boneyard, there were those vision camps outside of the natural that were
Yeah.
There were vision camps outside of the natural that had destructible terrain around them, and like early to mid game, people would be playing like Ring Around the Rosie with a like a fiend or something like that, and it'd be like, okay, well, I'm gonna contest, and you can never really like keep your own vision camp or something like that. Okay, that's cool. I always wondered if that would knock down trees. But yeah, having little micro options that creates is kind of cool. I like that. And then
Yeah,
tell me about expansions. I know engineering the
yep.
natural is kind of rough, but was this meant to be? This is like a pretty decently big map too. Um,
Yeah, it seems bigger than it is. It's about the same size as Boneyard. It was created during a time where cannon rushing or sentry post rushing was aggravating everyone, and so like kind of part of the tasks I gave myself was, is this something that can be tempered with map design rather than asking for nerfs. And so that's what kind of caused the original like N shape kind of snaky pattern. Was it didn't make the map necessarily larger by volume, but it did increase the rush distance from main to main enough to where like a really skilled player could still pull off a sentry post rush, but it was a lot more defensible from the player that was playing standard. And I think some of the early criticisms was that games kind of went a little bit long, which is why the destructible pathway is a new addition. Because originally you had those first 4 bases kind of all to yourself, and if you got someone playing really aggressive, you could have like an average length map, but they could, or average length game, but they could tend to go like pretty long. I guess for expansion pattern wise, I think I'm in the minority here, but I think like little map snacks that I like to add is I like to have nice like tank ledges for Atlas. I like to have a lot of scanner spots. I like the concealment for several units, but primarily for Vanguard scouts to be able to hide and get good surveillance. I also think Infernal deserves a solo effigy expand, and I will push that until the day that I die. So your main to your natural, if you place it just right, you can expand with 1 effigy.
Good man, I love
yeah.
it. Yeah, the number of times that I've like accidentally hit an effigy like one tile off of where it was supposed to be, and it's like, all right, well, I guess this is the entire game now because
you just quit.
Yeah. No, that literally happened today. I was like, oh man, I should know better. But like the the boundary between like what the effigy covers and what doesn't isn't like perfectly clear. That's all right.
Right. I always end up like just taking the L, and I'll place it 1 square inside because like I just don't want to. I don't want that to be why I'm a minute and a half behind everything else. You know.
Yeah. So, what about feedback for this map? I know there's been a lot of testing behind the scenes before the public got to see the PTR patch. What like is this map pretty similar to what it was initially, or has it undergone like a ton of changes?
So it's pretty similar. The biggest change has been the destructible. So the top 2 feedbacks were what I just mentioned about games going pretty long because it was easy to turtle. And from watching a few of the tournament matches the other day and the games that I've played and watched, it seems like this has solved that issue for the most part. The other point of feedback was just looking at the map. It looks like one Stormgate may be a little bit more favorable to one player or the other. But this is fake news. I've tested it a billion times, and then I've thought I was wrong, so I've come back and tested it more. And main to main, natural to natural, the distance between like the corner storm gates is less than 10 seconds. It's closer to 5 seconds, which I think, and especially once you knock down this path, it's very, very, very even. And you hinted at it earlier too. I do like the idea of storm gates being bait, and like the possibility of going for a Stormgate to be a really poor decision at times. I think that makes gameplay more interesting, and I think that it makes it less repetitive, where if like every Stormgate ever is always claimed, we know exactly when the tier 3 rewards are going to come onto the board. But if they're in riskier locations that you maybe necessarily don't want to go to, or you think the better reward is backstabbing your opponent, I think that makes just for better viewership, and it makes for a better playing experience. But yeah, those were the 2, I think, biggest criticisms. One has been debunked and one has been solved.
Gotcha. So talk to me about the ninja bases. Do they get taken all that often, or is that also one of those like high risk, high reward things where like, hey, you can take that base if you want, and it probably won't
Yeah.
get discovered, but if you do, there's no defending it.
Sure. So before the destructible path, I do think people were getting up to the top corner bases pretty often. Um, but since the path, I've noticed that people are kind of, taking the four corner and then they're going straight to that double Therium base. And so it does kind of open up the possibility, which is something I like and something I felt like the map was lacking in the original design, is I do like multiple expansion options. Like maybe the natural should be pretty self-explanatory and maybe the third should be like strongly suggested, but beyond that point, I think it's cool when games can unfold different ways. And so I've seen people knocking down their own destructible, taking the double Therium base, and then expanding horizontally as opposed to vertically, which has been pretty cool. But in Stormgate, like I do think getting up to 5, 6, 7 bases happens fairly often. And so yeah, I see those bases taken a lot for sure.
That's very interesting. You said I hadn't even thought about it until we were talking about it just now, but I was like, you know what? It would make a lot of sense for someone to just like knock down their own destructible, and then like this ramp is super defensible. Like, why would you not go for the double Therium after you take this Luminite? Like you functionally end up with like 2 complete bases right here, and like the only way up. Well, I shouldn't say the only way up, but like that ramp is pretty easy to defend, and this kind of seems like it's out of the way, but I like that there's a little back door here that can be abused if a player's like vigilant enough, but yeah, that's fun. I like that. I like that little back door right there, actually. And then from there to hop over here, is this narrow enough for Void Prowlers to be able to blink over that gap to get over and like start causing mayhem in there?
I want to say it is barely, and a lot of that is intentional. Like these are gameplay mechanics that I find to be fun. So like even when the destructible is still there, there's enough range there for 2 of any race's siege unit to reach. So it's enough to put pressure on, but not enough to like insta kill it. You have time to respond. And so that is a lot of my mindset too when designing like where the impassable terrains will be. Is I want siege weapons to have a role, to be able to be fulfilled and to get value out of smart positioning. So even from that corner, like if you place your buildings too close to the corner on your natural, like 1 or 2 Atlas might be able to reach across. I do believe at like just south of that tree, the Void Prowlers can reach across. Maybe they can't all reach at the same time, but I do believe it's reachable.
Gotcha. That's cool. Yeah, no, I agree. I don't know. Having fought against so many Terran tank lines in SC2, it makes me like, oh, tanks. Oh, siege weapons. But like they do have like being able to use the map to your advantage, and being able to like abuse some of that terrain where it's like, hey, I know my army. I know what I can bring to the table, and I know what the range is and how to exploit it. And likewise, if an opponent doesn't understand just how far an Atlas can shoot, well, you punish him for it. That's just part of the game, is knowing your opponent if you want to win.
I'm a former Zerg. I'm an Inferno player, so like I've got my hatred for siege tanks and for Atlas, but it's what I grew up a fan of professional wrestling, and so like I feel like they're just a good heel. Like I love to hate them. Like I don't ever want to see them go away. Like
Sure.
I love losing to them, like it's like, oh man, it sucks, but like it's still cool.
Yeah. That's cool. So have you, in the games that have been played on this, do you notice a lot of fights getting choked up here, or do the players tend to like draw back and they're like, nobody really wants to fight on a bridge. Let's go spread it out somewhere else, and they kind of move away? Or is it either way? I think it's cool. Even if you do have to like maneuver around a bridge, it's like, all right, so if that's a no man's land where they're just gonna like stare at each other, they're not going to stare at each other, and they're instead gonna like try and outmaneuver. Because really, like, let's say I'm defending here and my opponent's right there. Neither of us really wants to attack into the other one. I can just where is it? Yeah, I can swoop around the back door here, go up that ramp, siege up here maybe, or like flank around there. It might take a little while, but it's doable.
Yeah, exactly.
Like there's so many.
So
it's not as like checkerboard, I think, as it looks like initially with these bridges and stuff, it's not as like, oh well, you can either go forward or backward, and that's kind of it. It's no, there's a lot of room to maneuver. I like that.
Yeah, so like there's four paths across the map on either side, essentially like four ways in and four ways out of the center. So sometimes you might see two big armies trying to like both walk over the same bridge, but pretty quickly you see players adjust and do exactly what you said. They might try to flank over the other bridge, or they might try to put some long range things on the high ground. And then that opens up more dynamic. So like if you put your Hellborn on the high ground, they might come in from the other side with some Kree and slice up all your Hellborn, and suddenly you're losing $300 every time a Hellborn dies. So I've been seeing some pretty interesting and dynamic fights specifically right there, because like you're kind of forced to make that decision. Like I think for both parties, fighting your whole army on the bridge is a losing battle. Like it's really powerful for Miasma, it's really powerful for Vulcans, it's really powerful for Atlas. So like the natural thing is let's try to attack from one of these other angles, and I think it creates a more dynamic battle.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. I think it makes people like. It forces people to think a little bit more about the game instead of like, oh, well, we can't attack each other and kind of like whoever's got the better micro wins. It's more of a, oh, well, I need to actually understand the map, which is, that's almost like another level that I don't hear too many people talk about really. Is like, how well do you know the map and like positionings and things like that. Reminds me of when like I forget which map maker forgot to put destructible plates at the bottom of a ramp, but then Parting abused that in a tournament, and he built a pylon, and some Zerg was blocked into one base, and that was it. Like, that was like, hey, people got mad about it, but it wasn't his job to point it out. It was his job to like understand the map before playing on it, and there you go. I think maps that reward the player for understanding. Not just like, hey, how good are they as a player? How good are they as, at that specific race? But how much can they understand, like, the options that have been given to them, and how can they exploit them? Pretty cool. Have you seen this? Have you seen this map get mined out yet?
Mined out. Not since the update. There was one tournament a while back. I want to say it was between Gamefriend and Senegalo, where it was a very long match, and I'm pretty sure it did get mined out. But since the update, like I feel like games are ending at an appropriate time. It's certainly mine outable. If you're able to hold multiple fronts,
Yeah, yeah. I can't imagine how long that game would go. That reminds me of like the 40-minute tournament match or something like that, where it's like, okay, I like this game, but for the love of God, let me go to the bathroom or something. Like,
right.
Just enough's enough. But yeah, we've got cool little destructible terrains, awesome little like hoppy point. Like I think the Void Prowlers, especially with or anything that can blink, really is so strong over like smaller bodies of water like this. I think that's got a lot of a lot of potential for abuse, or for like a clutch where, oh hey, if there's a stalemate that happens, then someone can just hop a transport over, or things like that. What about dead space? Do we have a lot of dead space back here for flyers?
There's a decent amount. There's a decent amount, but it is like you'll see them coming across from your third if they go the vertical route, and if they go the horizontal route, you should see them coming across from likely your natural. I don't think there's a terrible amount. If it does prove to be problematic, we can add like a layer or two of impassable. Like you can do impassable by air painting in the editor.
Oh, interesting.
Just to hug it a little bit closer to the land. We have seen some really cool Eon Gate plays on this map. very. I feel like Celestials love this map for the most part, because of that. Those first 4 bases are also like really, really nice for vector play. But I guess the balance there is you have to dive pretty deep into your opponent's territory, so you better make sure that you can get out. But being able to blink into the main from the 3rd, and then potentially go down into the natural, and then blink over into the double luminite base, which is theoretically also past destructible terrain to keep all your vectors safe, is I think interesting and provides maybe some cool ESPN highlights later. We'll see.
Yeah. Very cool. And so what about other maps? Are you going to be like our Louisiana liaison? Are you going to be the guy that like? Are you going to have a map called Muffalata?
Maybe. So I'll never not put on for my people. Like, there'll probably always be some sort of nod, whether it be the main focus like this or something a little smaller. I do have another map that I'm currently reworking, called Breach. And the idea behind Breach is that it takes place on a coastal U.S. city that was lost to lost to coastal erosion, much like the city I currently live in. Louisiana loses a football field's worth of land every 100 minutes.
What?
And so, yeah, so like if we don't do anything about it, like hell, we might be absolutely underwater, right? And so the idea behind Breach was that it's a Vanguard like research facility built atop a lost like sunken city. And I guess in like the little bit of lore that I wrote up, that sunken city would be located about 50 or so miles southeast of this map. So I guess there's another little Louisiana nod there. But not everything will be Louisiana. But I do like to show some respect and some love for the place I've come from,
Sure.
the elders, the language. A cool story that I do want to mention is when I was first approached about adding this map to the ladder pool, I was approached by direct from Frost Giant that they really love the map. They're wanting to add it to the ladder pool, so we were kind of talking back and forth, and they mentioned like, hey, like the name is kind of hard to say, and I was like, yeah, it is, and I get it. And they asked, would you be open to changing it? And so I thought about it for a minute, and I just responded. I was like, look, I totally get it. I'm absolutely down to change it, like if we need to. But I kind of just explained like the importance of Louisiana French and visibility, and explain how like my great grandmother, Louisiana French was her first language. And I remember growing up, her sitting around talking to her siblings in French. I didn't understand what the hell she was saying. But when she was growing up in school, kids were beaten and publicly ridiculed and humiliated for speaking French. To the point to where like they would tell young kids, younger than my kid, like, you can't go use the bathroom until you learn how to speak in English. And they didn't know English. And it really scarred her, and she didn't pass the language down to my papa. He didn't pass it down to my mom. And so I'm like 2 generations removed trying to catch up. And, using a Louisiana French word for me was really important in wanting to show respect to her, who, to Hilda, who's no longer with us. And when I explained that to Frost Giant, like, they were instantly like, oh yeah, we're keeping it. Like, and I just want to say that because I know that, like, it's no secret Frost Giants, not everyone has had great things to say about their character, but that will stick with me forever, and I'll be forever grateful for them just giving me an opportunity to have visibility on something that I genuinely care about, and allow me to put my soul into this game. I'm just really thankful for that opportunity.
Dang, man, I wasn't expecting this in this interview. That's awesome. That's a really cool story, man. It does sound like they did you a solid. They could have been just like, oh well. No, they could have just
exactly. They could have.
We're not doing that, but that is pretty awesome. All right, well, looking forward to a lot more of the maps you made. I know you've already gotten your name out there with Breach, Bayou Caouenne.
Caouenne, yeah.
Caouenne. Oh,
Caouenne.
man, almost. Is looking really cool. I'm sure I'll win on it one day.
Yep.
But other than that, is there anything else you want to say to the rest of the Stormgate community or to the rest of the world before we close it out?
Just keep playing. It's really cool. The community is a lot more heavily involved. The PTR just went public, but I'll tell you, behind closed doors, it's been just really sick. Being involved and seeing iterations quickly. And so just keep coming through and enjoy the ride. I've enjoyed the ride this entire time since alpha, but this is one of the funnest times I've had, and I've met really cool people in this community that I consider to be friends. You one of them, Frank. Yeah, let's just keep passing a good time.
All right, yeah, let's keep the good times rolling. All right, well, thank you so much, man. I'm sure we're all looking forward to what more maps you're gonna create. And actually, from chat, we were talking about this earlier today. Since we never really got the tutorial maps that we wanted in the campaign, I wonder if the custom map community is going to be like, you know what, we'll make the tutorial ourselves, kind of a deal.
Hey, that could work.
Yeah.
I could be misremembering, but I think Oriole actually was working on something.
Oh, is he?
I could be dead wrong.
Okay.
And I likely am dead wrong, but I feel like I remember this, yeah.
All right, cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for hopping on this interview, man. I can't wait to see this map in like, merci beaucoup, on in tournaments and stuff. And that'll be it for this map tour. Take it easy, guys.